Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Get the music started there. Oh, hold on. I can't hear it. What? Yeah, okay. I thought I had everything all perfect, and nope, I didn't. But you know what, guys? It's another new week. Might be a quieter week. There we go. Might be a quieter week, but we do have a couple of big events towards the later end of the week. We are going to have a lot to talk about this week, and we're going to probably see some wild stuff this morning. So, let's lock in. Check out the charts. Okay, so we got natural gas rolling over today. So I need to roll over natural gas. So the treasuries, man, I mean, they've been all over the place, and you got a pretty clear range to finding itself here. But I mean, each one of these big moves up and down was based on news. So like, the market wants to move. Is just that it hasn't all been one way, and it's kind of given us a lot of question. But you know, now that we've created this range, it may become very dominant over the summer. We'll see. The S&P 500. Well, on the 21st, that was Friday, right? Why do I seem crazy? Yeah, the 20th. Okay, the 20th was when we had like a ton of selling, and I think that was kind of like, oh, we need the options to expire worthless. This can't go up too much, so they kind of put a halt to the party on Thursday. On Friday, it was extremely range bound. Today, I'm expecting that there could be some selling. So something that you will get happen after a huge options expiration like we had last Friday. And granted, this is by no means a guarantee that you will see selling on the index, but you will often see pretty strong selling overall, and especially in individual names. Basically, all of the all of the market makers that were market making options, they were buying the stock to hedge themselves against the options that they were selling. They don't need those hedges anymore, and so on the week after, they sell them all, and that results in what we call an unclenching. So be careful out there in the equity indexes today. Oil had a little bit of a pullback on Friday, but still the trend looks incredibly strong. Gold and silver, gold and silver got really hammered on the 21st. Really hammered, kind of put a stop to that strong trend they were having there. Copper continues to look a little bit like, remember that this over here, this was super crazy. Let me put this thing on so you can kind of see where we're talking about a little bit better. Right, that was like highs, crazy highs, super strong trend in copper. So this maybe still be a bit of a pullback, but you know, the most recent action here doesn't look super positive. The Japanese yen continues to just get destroyed. Now, there was a little bit of upside action, but that quickly got pulled back down. So I think that this was, they were getting comments from the central bank in Japan. But what I'm seeing right now is like, oh, we might raise rates if inflation is higher like we expect it to be, but otherwise, you know, we're okay. And they didn't actually seem that concerned about the currency either. So I don't know if we should really be sitting here like, you know, edge of our seat expecting some buying, unless you're getting a really steep move that doesn't, you know, it's a bit too much. Seems like they're only stepping in when like it gets too crazy. So yeah, that kind of puts us in a difficult spot in the treasuries. with the specter of the Japanese yen. But that also, I think, kind of says that maybe some of the longer term flows are still a little bit tilted to the sell side in the treasury market. Okay. Wow, we got so many guys here early on a Monday. Octavius Namrus, Jake, A. Paul, Uzi, Alan White. So we got a good week ahead of us. I am on vacation this week, so I'm going to be spending a lot of time here doing some programming and studying and so on and so forth. So let's come over here and do our notes. Oh, well. Actually, that's we move it, not copy it. Move it. And then we'll copy our template over. Okay, so flows. Okay, but yen is still strongly trending down. In equities, we got equities unclenching. Okay, and then over here, let's just double check. Do we have any kind of? Okay, so we do have. Oh, Fed's Goolsby was at 6:30 already. Oh, you know what? I don't have the new squawk going. That's why. Okay. So we got Goolsby and Dally. We got a 3 and 6 month bills. Okay, and then another thing that we got that I didn't mention is that there's PCE on Friday. So I'm already seeing some comments in some of my like news synopsises in the morning and so forth saying, well, you know, activity was fairly constrained, etc., etc. Maybe they're waiting on PCE. So they're already kind of looking ahead to that Friday number, which sucks for us, but is the thing. That is something that could mean less activity. Another big thing that a lot of people might not be thinking about, but it's coming. Thursday debate. Can we talk about the debate a little bit real quick? So here's the thing with the debate. Normally, you do not have debate this early in the cycle. So Donald Trump was kind of like talking like he didn't like the Commission on Presidential Debates. He felt that they were kind of like biased against him and kind of, what do you say, like rigging the rules against him and so forth, right? So then there's this concern that like debates wouldn't even happen this cycle. And then Joe Biden starts talking about the debate and being like, oh, you don't want to do a debate. Well, why don't you do this debate with us? And basically Biden used that to be like, why don't you come and debate us using our rules and our format? Are you chicken? Sort of a thing. And so we are getting a debate with a format that is even more tilted a bit against Trump than the debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates would be. Kind of funny. So I feel like that's kind of a loss on Donald Trump's part, but yeah, this is probably not a huge deal. Okay, but one of the things that we probably should consider, right? Because the whole thing that we're about is looking at systems and how systems lead to certain more common outcomes and certain optimal strategies, etc., etc. So what are the rules of this debate? Well, you're not allowed to talk over each other. Your mic will be turned off when you are not the person speaking. There is no audience. Yeah. So basically, oh, by the way, and the debate moderators are from CNN. So basically, they are setting this up to be the most boring debate in presidential history. That's what they want, is they want the most boring debate in presidential history. So we'll see if we actually get that. We'll see if we actually get that. I highly suspect that what will happen is you'll have a really, really boring debate that's all about these teeny tiny little details and everything, and nobody like falls over at their podium, and so then the media will declare Joe Biden the winner because of that. Like if Joe Biden doesn't fall over, then he's winner by default, sort of a thing. I think that's what you're probably going to see. But the split side of that is that if you bore everybody to death, they're not going to watch it. And that could mean the debate has less of an impact on the election this time around. It could be that that's what we end up seeing. So, yeah, Brad says the debate is going to be a total S show. I don't know. You know, Biden team has kind of been saying, oh, we're going to try and get Donald Trump to start ranting about the last election and how he actually won, so that he spends all of his time litigating the last election. But I kind of suspect that is maybe a, like head games. Because again, the whole thing is really set up to be really boring. And will probably be more about like specific policy and things like that. Although, I don't know, if it really turns into like a really strong policy discussion, I think Donald Trump might have them. Because Donald Trump understands enough about the policy and has enough strong opinions about what's going on to like criticize certain things that the Biden administration is doing and get into these weeds. And I don't think that Biden would be able to defend it very well. Like, because you can say, like, if it turns into immigration, for instance, right? Like, what we're doing in immigration is crazy. And like, how do you defend that? Because quite frankly, you can't defend it. It's pretty obvious that Joe Biden really just wants as many people to come across the border as possible, right? So that may benefit Trump in that way. But so anyways, with all of that in mind for markets, I think that you're going to see quite a bit of anxiety around the debate and how that changes things. But I personally, if I really saw that really strongly, I would be selling against it. Like if we started to see options really price in a big move around the debate, I would maybe be selling the options against that, because I'm kind of thinking that the debate will be less of a deal than it usually is. But maybe I'll be completely wrong. Okay. Oh yeah, we got to do a little bit of some planning here now. What should I call this? Planning. Okay, so Goolsby was on CNBC, and that interview just concluded. We're towards the top end of the range, and maybe we're going to see some buying today. Well, I do see pretty consistent buying over the past 15 minutes or so. About 15,000 contracts net buy. That's the biggest degree of any kind of like trend that we're seeing now. I'll come over here and I show you the charts. It is, maybe it's a good opportunity for long. I don't know. But I kind of question like what is going to be the driver for the flows here. Some signs of long flow, and it's not across the board. It's not across the board. You see here in the 5-year and the 30-year, it's not across the board. But it is there, and we should be aware of it. Coming back over to here. So I have the week off. So I'm gonna come in here and look at our research week. What are the things that we had on the list? Avoid news, backtesting cache data, doing our momentum strategy, some reading, script writing, converting the old indicators over. Okay, so I think that what I'm gonna do is I'm going to kind of split this up into like a couple of blocks. So I think I'm gonna have morning, early afternoon, late afternoon. And then in the morning, I want to do our avoid news algo. In fact, we maybe if we get bored, we might do that during this. And then early afternoon, do I want to do the more serious stuff early afternoon or late afternoon? I don't know. Let's do early afternoon, because then if I really get into it, maybe I'll just go through that and I will continue to do it through the late afternoon. So here I will do the momentum stretch. And then here we'll do some reading. And I think I want to start with More Money Than God. That was a book that I started reading and I was really liking it, and I want to finish that book. So, oh, and probably we should stick some script writing in there somewhere too, huh? So put that over here in the morning. And which ones do we want to do? Yeah, we need to write our index funds evil. Now, I also need to build a dog kennel this week. I might do that. But I don't know if I really want to do it today. I got some work done on it yesterday. It may be. So what I could do is I could write and watch the kids while my wife does that. Yes, for my dog. It's going to be a nice dog kennel, though. It's like, why do you... Yeah, see, I think Uzi is thinking of, like, your traditional outdoor dog kennel. And he's like, your dog is, like, 6 inches high. Why would you need that? Don't you have a shoebox lying around? Right? Yes. Okay, so the deal is that we have, like, a one of those fence sort of things that you can, like, unfold. So it's tall enough that the dogs, well, the dog, if you really wanted to, could jump over it, but they've gotten to the point where, like, they don't realize that they can, or don't remember that they can. I don't know. They don't jump over it. They just stay in that, and that's where they sleep. Problem is, the kids sometimes think that playing with that is super fun. So we are building a dog kennel cabinet sort of a thing. It's a really nice looking cabinet. I think I'm gonna have, well, not I think, I've bought it, so I'm gonna have a walnut top. I think it's gonna be super nice looking, and then there's be a drawer in the top for all of the dog things. Yeah. We don't crate our dogs anymore, but the crate we had was big enough to hold 2 6-foot adults lying down. Yeah. So the thing is that as soon as we build this, probably the kids are going to want to crawl inside of it. But you know what? I would rather have them inside of that than some other gross dog kennel, right? So is there a tip to getting Jigsaw to recognize NinjaTrader 8 as a platform when setting up the bridge? Yes, there is. So the first thing is the best way to like create the tunnel or whatever, there's an indicator that you have to put on. And so if you create a market analyzer and you put that indicator on the market analyzer, and then every instrument that you put on that market analyzer will send stuff to the bridge, right? That's in the Jigsaw instructions. I don't know if you've done that part yet, but you know, if probably you have, but just to be sure, you know, you do have to actually put an indicator on to get the bridge working. Okay, Jig says he's done that. Okay, so then the other thing is that you have to have that up and going, and like the market analyzer and the indicator on the thing before you start Jigsaw. So if you're not getting the data right now, just close Jigsaw down completely and then restart it. And then you should see it. And you'll see it like when you come down here and you do the search and the connection, it will show up as a different connection here. There'll be like NinjaTrader Bridge or something like that. And then everything will work correctly. So as a little bit of a technical background sort of a thing, what this is doing is C# and the .NET framework has this super nifty feature that basically allows programs that are like completely different programs to share a space in memory, essentially. Because the .NET framework in particular, what it was really designed for was to allow you to create your GUIs and things like that in C# and then have more performant libraries written in C++. And so the whole thing is like you can utilize regular DLLs, right? For instance, in NinjaTrader, when you load an add-on, like when you load My Indicators, it's a DLL file that it's loading. It's been compiled into a DLL and it loads that, right? So in order to have C# and C++ work together in that way, they needed to make a way so that they could like share a location in memory. And so Jigsaw is kind of, you know, it's kind of a little bit of a hack using that functionality to, okay, when I get data, I'm going to go and I'm going to put that data into that memory location, and then Jigsaw is going to pick it up. So you will probably notice like a 1 frame lag between when you get the data in NinjaTrader and you see it change in NinjaTrader and when you see it change in Jigsaw. But again, that's just because that's as fast as it takes for the other program to go and look in the memory location. So it's lightning fast. It's as fast as that process could possibly be, right? But that's the way that it works. So that's why the bridge has to be going and data has to be like going into that memory location in order for Jigsaw to see it. Like Jigsaw has to see it when it starts up. So that's probably the problem you're having, is you just need to restart Jigsaw. And I don't think that there's any, let me double check here. Like I don't think that there's there's not anything in the connection manager that you have to set up or anything like that. And if it doesn't work, maybe try restarting both of them or restart the machine first and then do it. I don't know. Like it can be, I can recall a couple of times where it was funky like that, but that's why I'm like, yep, there's a trick to it. Anyways. Dog kennels, yeah. We did good stuff, you know, so I was like, well, if we're gonna do this, because I went and bought the lumber all raw and had to cut it up and everything, and you know, I was like, well, you need to take all of the stuff off of the workbench in the garage so that I can move the workbench and then be able to cut the pieces. And so my wife did that, and holy crap, like ended up cleaning the whole garage. Then on top of that, on Saturday, my elbow was still feeling awful. It's pretty good right now. I still feel a little bit of like inflammation and pain at the extremities, but it's pretty good. I might be able to work out on that. I might be able to do overhead work on that. But on Saturday, I chose not to do any of that. So there was like, I was in big cardboard debt and I put all the cardboard away. Oh my gosh, man. They're like, they got me this cardboard cutter for Christmas. I went on the TikTok shop and I looked to try and see if there was one on the TikTok shop, because I think it's just so cool. I'm like, dude, if people saw you cutting cardboard with this, they would totally buy it and you'd make a ton of money off the TikTok shop, right? But anyways, it's like this, it's got a little blade that rotates, not super fast, but just relatively slowly. But the blade is like hexagonal. And so that's what kind of makes it cut cardboard. So I used that thing and cut all that cardboard up, and I completely filled the recycling bin up to the top. Like I folded everything down. It's as compact as it can go, and I completely filled the recycling bin. Now the garage is all nice and clear. So if I choose to go out there, we can do that. I've got a lot of stuff that I want to do on this side though, so we'll see. I think that'll probably be like, you know, I'll discuss with my wife what their plans are, because maybe she'll do it, or she'll go out there with my son. Or I don't know. Maybe, probably not. Probably, now that I think about it, probably not. And you know what? For a job like this, this is one of those jobs. This is going to be hard because I've never really done this before. I've learned a lot about it, but I've never really done this before. But like how you measure and like make the marks and things like that really matters. Because like if you lose a 1/16 of an inch here and a 1/16 of an inch here, and all of a sudden you're off by ½ an inch. So maybe I should do it. But I think that she can do that stuff. Yeah, account for the blade width. Yeah. So what I bought the workbench with the idea that in the future we will do little woodworking projects. Like I don't think that I can necessarily do the big woodworking projects like the table that I've been doing at my uncle's workshop, but I do think that we could do small things like jewelry boxes and things like that. Big brains figuring out trade work is adorable. Yeah, well, you know, this brings me back to, you know what you just did, Uzi, is you found one of those little conduits that will bring me back to one of my hyper-focused topics and will get me yapping about that hyper-focused task, right? So, but let me like, there's another little segue into a slightly different thing that I see online that like drives me crazy. Okay. A lot of women online, especially like feminist types, they will talk about this like weaponized incompetence, right? It's like if you ask the man to do housework and then he will do it all wrong. And it's like I think that he's intentionally doing it wrong so that he won't have to do it. And this is weaponized incompetence. Have you ever heard that argument before? Okay. I don't think it's weaponized incompetence. I think that almost everything that you do will create new pathways and new brain cells in your brain. And that things take a little bit of training for your brain to do it. So like I'm making a dog kennel. I betcha that it will take me like several days to put this thing together. And somebody that has put it together before, I bet you that you could make these dog kennels for a living and make like 2 an hour or something like that. Like I you know, if you know what you're doing and everything, and you go through it as quickly as possible, it probably doesn't take that long. Right? So when Uzi says big brains figuring out trade work is adorable, like there are real skills to trade work that, you know, I think that people that aren't in the trades, they think, oh, well, that's not that hard. Like cutting a piece of wood is not that hard. It's simple. You just push it through the saw, right? Okay, but there's actually like how you hold it and ways of holding it to make sure that it stays up against the fence and to make sure that it doesn't, you know, kick back on you, or that if it does kick back on you, that it doesn't, you know, completely hit you in the gut and really hurt you. You know, there's all of these teeny tiny little details everywhere along the line that your brain has to think about. And if you're doing it the first time, you have to think about them. You're probably going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes, right? But then your brain is going to like encode that and make new brain cells. And then the next time that you do it, it's easier and easier until it's just like second nature to you, right? And so I think some people, you know, this is the whole thing that I think people in the trades have been trying to say to us that society doesn't seem to recognize, is that like it is a real craft. It is a real career that takes learning and that your brain has to adjust to, and really, like, to really truly be great at it, you have to like dedicate your whole life to it. And it's not just like any idiot can do it. And society and the market probably undervalues that work. You know, like this is the larger point of everything that I'm trying to teach, right? Markets are not efficient, and people that have power and have capital do all sorts of just awful stuff with this lie that the market is efficient. They tell you the market is efficient, and they use that to get away with all sorts of crazy crap. And one of the ways that they use to get around it, or one of the ways that they abuse it, is by, you know, creating cheap labor. Right? They say the market is efficient, and so if the market is only willing to pay you X much, then that must mean that it's only worth that much. But a large part of why it's only worth that much is just people's perception and, like, you know, in the past, oversaturating that market or whatever the deal is. And so then the amount of labor that's available for that thing is not actually as high as the market price would insinuate. And that's why you would get things like during the pandemic, you get all of these supply chain blockages, and like they don't have enough people working and doing these things. It's because the supply for that thing isn't actually as high as everybody says. Market's not efficient, so you can't sit down and say, well, this is the market price, ergo that's what it's actually worth, because, you know, on a long-term trajectory, market's pretty efficient, but like at the current time, is the current price reflective of all available information about supply and demand? No, it's not. And so yes, they use that to undervalue manual labor. Maybe with the way these AI things are going, we may get into a future where all of a sudden manual labor becomes like super crazy valuable. Like, we're already seeing it. Like, if you're an electrician, electricians with the right business sense, they can build a business and they can very quickly become millionaires with those businesses, right? Because there's not enough electricians, apparently. Electricians and plumbers in particular. But you might see that as like AI kind of takes out some jobs. I don't think that AI is going to take over all jobs or like all tech jobs or anything like that. But there are some things that people were doing that were kind of trivial things, but they were getting paid a lot for, that might just disappear. And then they won't have the money, and then they want to pay people to do stuff in their house, and there won't be enough people to do it because everybody is going into the computer stuff and they aren't going into the trades. There's a balance, though, with the trades. The skill is valuable, the field is crowded, and those with skill generally worth the cost aren't the majority. The people building your homes are usually drunk/high while doing it and will likely hide beer cans in your walls. The guys who re-roofed our house couldn't do it without huffing blue paint. Yeah, well, but I mean, that's another part of it too, is like we have been encouraging people away from the trades, which isn't right. Like, and this is another side to it, is that like there are real advantages to like being raised with something, right? Like if you've been doing it since you were a little kid, right? You develop those skills. Yeah, good. Congrats on catching up with Micro. Like the thing is, so let me present it from a different kind of starting point here. Classes in society exist not because we want to stratify everybody and pit them against, but because there are real advantages to doing certain kinds of work that will create a class centered around doing that work. Because if you teach your kids that thing and then they pick up your business and whatever, and that's what will create a class, right? And so, the working class is a class, and you need a group of people that's what they do for their living, and they did it and their parents did it, and like that's how you get better work. And we've come in and we're like, oh, we don't like the working class. We don't want anybody to be working class anymore. We want them all to be white collar or whatever the deal is, because it pays more. And then you kind of encourage everybody to go over there. And then what is the result? You get crappy work from the working class, because the only people that are doing it are, like the dropouts and people that screwed up somewhere else and stuff. It's not. And this is all from just kind of like undervaluing the value of manual labor. It's the same thing though. Like if you're going to be a banker, like if like what we do, we're traders or we're in finance, right? Those are things that you pass on to your kids. Even if I'm not like teaching them how to trade and they're not interested in that and in finance, I'm still teaching them things about the things that I'm teaching you about, the way that the world works, the way that systems work, and the sort of things that you have to think about to deal with those sorts of problems. One of the advantages of having an upper class is that you get people that actually understand all of these super complex government systems and world systems and diplomacy and things like that. And it's the same argument the other way around. You can't just take any old yokel off of the street and teach them to be a diplomat. It's kind of something that to some extent you have to train people from birth to do. So there has to be an upper class too. Some, and the funny thing about it is that like our DNA, like over time will like adjust itself to that too. That's why like some people are built to go outside and carry heavy things. Because if I go outside, I get immediately fried, right? And I work out super hard and I try to get as strong as I possibly can. But there are some guys that they will always be stronger than me, even if they're not training at all. Because their genetics, they're just designed for that, right? My genetics are geared towards sitting in a chair all day. That's just what it is. I know I can get a room in your house, sheetrock it, texture it, install trim, molding paint it, put it in any fixtures, but if I think too hard about it, I'll screw some stuff up. Oh, that's Yeah, that's like he's talking about like almost becomes second nature because he doesn't actually actively have to think about it. If he does think about it, he'll screw it up. Well, that's the difference between unconscious competence and conscious competence, right? I notice a correlation with people who hate going outside and their belief in the existential crisis of climate change. Maybe. You know, the climate change thing, the like dissecting the etymology of that and like the arguments and the development of the science and all of those sorts of things around it is way more interesting to me than like, is there climate change or not, right? Like everybody is just laser focused. Well, it's not everybody, it's Reddit. Reddit is just laser focused on there is climate change, and all of those podunk conservative yokels don't believe in it, and we're all going to die because we can't convince the conservatives that it's a thing. That's what they all think, right? But like when you trace through the etymology of it, it's like, you know what? They have a lot of good reasons to be skeptical about it. Okay. Because there was so many things where they said, oh, the climate is going to go this way, and it ended up being completely wrong. There's a lot of other things where they made a big deal about it, and like we solved the problem, or the problem solved itself in some instances. And so like, you know, then on top of that, you've got people that they believe in the climate change, and there's this thing on the left. I don't want to get too deep into this one thing, but that there is this thing on the left where they're like everything justifies the ends, right? The ends justify the means, and so like it's okay if we lie or we exaggerate or we hide certain information as long as it is in pursuit of the larger, more important goal, right? And so this is why you get some people in the climate change space that will say things like, you know, we're all going to be underwater in 20 years. No, we're not. The science doesn't say that. There's not a single piece of science. And in fact, the science suggests that over the next 100 years, the seas could rise by maybe 1 meter, which is not the end of the world and not a huge deal. And so far, the seas haven't really been rising, right? But and the people that are in the science and really know what they're talking about, they know this, but they might still go along with the hyperbole because they think, well, you know, it's in betterment of the larger goal, so okay, right? But on the split side, like it gets hot. like outside sucks. Outside sucks. It's always sucked. And we humans put a lot of effort into, you know, not having to go outside and deal with that. And if you are inside all the time, your ability to, you know, adjust that and deal with that is greatly diminished. So yeah, you totally get these people that they don't ever want to go outside. It's too hot, and then they are go more concerned about climate change as a result. Yeah. The more you go when it's outside, the hotter it needs to be to concern you. I think one of the things is that I always comes back to me when I'm thinking about this was when I was a missionary. I was a missionary in Kansas and Missouri. So like Midwest, right? I saw this video where they were like, you know, like it's hot in the UK right now, and all you people in America are like, yeah, I mean it's hot, but like it's not that hot. And they're like, well, but it is really hot here in the UK because like it's a muggy hot and all of these sorts of things. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like you haven't been to the Midwest, man. You have not been to the Midwest, because my first week in Wichita, Kansas, the very first week of me being a missionary was over 100 degrees every day, 98% humidity. It was like up to 105 every day for a week. It was a record-breaking heat wave that nothing else had come, like nothing else since then has come even close to that. And oh my gosh, it was murder. And for that first week, because we were coming into an area where the missionaries before us didn't leave us anything to do, and we were both new to the area and all that sort of thing. Because a lot of the time with missionaries, it's like one missionary will leave and the missionary will stay. One will stay there, so that you have somebody to kind of pass the knowledge over. But both of us were new, right? Then the last guys got pulled out. So we didn't have anything to do but go and knock on doors. So I was out all day knocking on doors, 105 degrees. And that was a heat wave. And nothing else I've seen has come even close to that. Nothing else I've seen has come even close to that. Yep. And the humidity, the humidity was terrible. And we didn't really get very good, we didn't have AC. Actually, I think in Wichita we didn't have AC per se, but we had something that worked pretty good. There was another place the next summer, which was pretty hot, but it wasn't nearly as bad as that. But it's still muggy, right? And this other house, it was a house that we lived in. Like, remember, he was one of those guys that would buy houses and fix them up. Except for that, he was like a real professional about it. Like, he was, always doing like 4 different houses at a time, and very, very rich from that. And his son would do it too. Like, his son had bought a house and they were fixing it up so that he could pay to go be a lawyer. Anyways, that house didn't have AC or anything. We just had a window unit. And so if you closed all of the doors to that one room, then that one room would get kind of cool, but it would be super, super humid too. What are you selling? Religion. I do sell an indicator suite, so there's that. But really, the live stream is really more of a collaboration, right? We are able to share information and work together to try and gain an edge on the market. Right now, though, well, I mean, we did move like 2 ticks higher? We did move 2 ticks higher. But right now, it kind of looks like the market's going to be pretty quiet. So we're just yapping about the climate. I got back from South Texas last week. Had to change my shirt 3 times, but other than sweating like a banshee, the heat did not bother me. Well, yeah, probably because you had a polyester shirt on. Yeah, you gotta have that good quality cotton, man. The good quality cotton shirt, it makes a huge difference for that sort of a thing. Cotton or linen. Linen is actually even better, because cotton kind of just soaks the water up, and apparently linen does not as much. I was the other day I was searching for linen shirts, and like everything that it was giving me was from India, and I'm like, well, that makes sense because it gets really effing hot in India. Like, I was seeing this thing where like it's gotten as hot as 140 in some areas of India. Holy crap. That's crazy. That's crazy. Can you ask me a question? No, that's why it's a live stream, is so that I can just talk and you guys can't interact with me whatsoever. You hate the wrinkles on linen? Yeah. But I mean, that's what gives it character, right? That's what makes you look like a billionaire playboy, is the wrinkles on the linen. it would really what this is about is that I'm concerned about plastics, and it super bothers me that like all of our clothes are made out of plastic now, because the threads and stuff that comes off from your shirt, that's a large portion of the microplastics that are out there screwing you up. And there's some evidence to suggest that the issue that I have with ulcerative colitis or inflammatory bowel disease could be gut reaction to plastics. I know Bro's got plastic on his head, right? But I like polyester clothing is not necessarily the best thing. Right? And if you start going out and looking for clothes that aren't plastic, it's like, holy crap. Like one of my hobbies lately has been to go and do a Google search about a certain thing, like a certain type of clothing or whatever the deal is, and then go and get on Instagram and see what kind of ads come to you. Oh, the question was, what are you trading on? I'm using Jigsaw and NinjaTrader 8. Oh, Uzi beat me to it. Uzi already told you. I should close this, by the way. I'll write things out so we can see the interest rates. When you see the interest rates, it's like, this have had a decent move this morning so far. Oh, okay. So by the way, Financial Juice has this new thing that shows me like what the market on open imbalance is. And you can see it, well, especially in the Dow, but in the S&P 500, it's about 1 million. That's actually pretty mild though. Okay, like a really big market on close would be over 1 billion, so, but it is sell side. Anyways, so once you start doing this and you see what kind of ads are sent to you on Instagram for a thing, it's really eye-opening. Like the one that I did this the most with was gym shorts. I was like, I want to get some new gym shorts. I had Lululemons before. They did pretty good, but they got a hole in them. They're trash. It's time for something new. And so they just need to be, I want something with durable material and no drawstring on the outside. Drawstring, but on the inside, because I don't want the drawstring to interfere with the snatch. And there are dozens, if not hundreds, of different companies out there advertising about gym shorts. And the funny thing is that they're almost all the same. Like a lot of them, I think that they're all pulling from the same Chinese supplier, right? You just slap a different logo on it and maybe have unique colorways, but like they're all making the same piece of clothing. And if it's not the same piece of if it's not the exact same piece of garment, it's like the same material, right? They're all a certain percent polyester and a certain percent poly or elastane, right? And so when you're trying to, if you know, okay, so what would be the one that would actually be like the most quality? Like what's the one that's going to be a little bit more expensive and a better quality material? It's just, you can't find it, right? They're all polyester and elastane. Unless you go to a place where like they're specifically cotton. Dude, cotton gets wild too, because like there's different types of cotton. There's like, how long are the cotton fibers? And the longer the cotton fibers are, the higher quality it is. Like if you get really high quality cotton, that'll last your lifetime. Whereas the low quality cotton just will fall apart in your washing machine after a year or two. So that's me and my crusade against plastic. This happens often. It happened before in many industries, sure. Yeah. Well, it's part of it is it's just crazy. Like, you know, like this Gymshark guy. Like, there's nothing really that special about the clothes that you get from Gymshark. It's really not. It's just the same stuff everybody else is getting from China, right? It's just that somehow he played the algorithms and like the marketing and everything just right to become one of the richest people, right? It's just crazy. And like, it's insane to see how many people are running like full businesses just on that, right? But, you know, you say it happened in many industries. I mean, again, that's the whole point is, right? Systems have certain optimal strategies and common outcomes, right? Everybody out there, they're looking for somebody to blame. Like the thing I saw this morning was the military-industrial complex. The reason that everything is so effed up in our society is the military-industrial complex because, you know, they have a financial incentive to fund more war, and so they will continually go out and start new wars. Okay, well, are there people out there that have a financial incentive to keep wars going? Yes, there are. But you know what? The market cap of defense companies is not that high. Like, these are not, like, if the military-industrial complex was really as much of a thing as people say it is, you would all own defense stocks. You know, defense stocks would be taking off the way that Nvidia is. But the truth is that the defense stocks, they make a certain consistent amount of the GDP, and it's not that much. And like, as an investment, it's not that great of an investment. So the military-industrial complex is greatly exaggerated, right? We want like somebody to point to. That's the person that's preventing me from having the utopian society that I really want, right? The real bad guy is the systems, guys. And it's not like they're bad guys, right? They just exist. But all systems have certain common outcomes and optimal strategies and things like that. And, you know, they change things. And the problem is that you kind of have to have a system. So, and all systems are going to have a problem to some degree. That's what we live in today, is tyranny of the system. It's not tyranny from any one individual person. We're all so concerned fighting the last war, right? Trying to prevent the next mustache man from coming to power. And we're not seeing the villain that's staring us in the face, which is an entrenched system. What about oil? So oil is probably a bigger boogeyman than the military-industrial complex, probably, yeah. Oil industry makes a ton of money. But, you know, if I was to look at an industry that, like, you should be concerned about that industry and the way that it throws its power around, the two biggest ones that I would be concerned about is the tech industry and the financial industry. We're going to bring the next mustache man to power, trying to stop that mustache man from getting... Yeah, totally. Well, I think that the American system is pretty good at preventing a maniacal dictator from coming to power. Like, a large portion of the Constitution was written because of the historical failures, i.e. Rome, to try and prevent those sorts of things. And so far, it's proven itself to be pretty darned effective. In my opinion, crazy opinion coming here, warning. Crazy opinion warning. FDR was probably the closest that we ever get to a dictator in the United States, right? He was able to be president more than 2 terms. He had almost complete and utter political control of the country. He frankly he wielded his power in should I say immoral ways. Like basically the Supreme Court said, no, all of these things that you're doing are unconstitutional. And so he packed the Supreme Court so that they changed the rules. And then and that's part of why you have a lot of these kind of contradictions in US law about or around things like socialism and stuff, right? It's probably the closest that we'll ever get to a dictator. And he wasn't that bad. No, we'll never get Mustache Man because art schools are a lot more welcoming now. So this reminds me of a TikTok that I saw that I thought was really fascinating. Basically, this person was doing a study on World War II Germany, and one of the things that they had found was that the World War II Germans, they didn't like people that were like kind of had these what you would say like dark triad attributes sort of a thing. Like you would think, oh, if you're going to go around and you're going to commit genocide and kill a bunch of people and things like that, don't you want like sadomasochists and psychopaths and things like that, right? But the Nazis actively would purge those people out. And in reality, the key to them being able to pull off the things that they did was because they were just normal people. They were literally just taking regular people and putting them into extraordinary circumstances and watching them do what they wanted. You take a system and then you put a person into that system that doesn't understand the system enough to actually do anything or fight against it, and they'll do exactly what you want them to do. And that's what happened there. Mustache Man was a pretty average person, apparently. Like, that's the thing that disturbs me. That's the thing that I feel like should be the takeaway that, like, nobody ever seems to do, is that everybody thinks that it must have taken a person of, like, a most extraordinarily evil person to perpetrate all of that. But he was just a regular guy. Like, I think that a really large portion of people, of ordinary people, put into the right circumstances, would do the same thing. Let's see here. That's part of why it was so hard to be mean and mad at many people in the countries involved. By the time we got in and messed stuff up, we saw that they really were lying and leading the sheep, so we couldn't persecute all the sheep for the sins of the flock. Yeah. Well, and it really does come down more to like the tendencies of people, right? There are some things like people are incredibly random. They really are incredibly random. And yet, with all of that randomness, in the right system, you will tend to get certain persistent outcomes that we do need to be aware of and be concerned about. And one of those things is that people do not think logically. They are emotional, and it's actually quite easy to manipulate them politically in that manner. But again, I think the U.S. system is pretty resilient and wouldn't have some of those problems that led to what happened in Germany. One of the arguments that I keep hearing is like, well, Donald Trump, he didn't really know what he was doing last time, and the people weren't very organized behind him, but this time he'll be much more effective, and that's why we have to prevent him, because otherwise he would become a dictator. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. For one thing, Donald Trump is not an ordinary person. Donald Trump is a completely different beast altogether, right? Probably ADHD. I would call it like a narcissistic personality disorder, which is to say that he will behave in a narcissistic way, because it's learned behavior for him or adaptive behavior for him, not because it's pathological. But then he is pretty smart and he knows a lot about what's going on, and he's extremely confident, and that leads to certain well, I feel like I was did a pretty good job at predicting his behavior when he was president. I don't think that he would ever become a quote-unquote dictator. I do think that, you know, he could make some poor decisions at certain points, though. It wouldn't be very good. What am I got here? Oh, okay, so the market on open was 129 million sell in the S&P. So now's a good time for us to go and check on the market and see if GameStop is like down big from the overnight or not. Because I would expect there to be a really massive unclenching over there. Oh, interesting. So there was quite a bit, actually, of downside action in the overnight, but on the open, I would say there's a pretty strong. Can I go back and compare it? Yes, I would say fairly strong opening impulse to retrace that. So at least in GameStop, I'm not seeing that evidence of like a quote unclenching. Perhaps, though, they don't have a whole lot of hedges to get rid of because GameStop has already fallen so much. But what about Nvidia? That's another one, is that, wow, holy crap, that was down so big overnight. After it was having a bad week already. That's a pretty big drop overnight in Nvidia. What if I go to a daily bars? Okay. Well, that makes it look not quite so bad, but like 120 is next kind of round number. Below 120, things could they might start to say like, oh no, downtrend. I think the AI, what should we actually be concerned about? I feel that AI is something that we should actually be concerned about. Because if we live in, a tyranny of the system, AI is something that will really, really create a tyrannical system that is entrenched and you're never going to be able to get rid of it, right? And it will be, like this social credit system. That's probably the best example of where that would be headed, right? Is all of these things down to what jobs are available to you and loans are available to you and business opportunities, and all of this might be down to decisions that an AI makes. I don't think that that would be a good thing for the world, but it seems inevitable to me. I've had this ongoing, like, gravelly throat from my allergies, and it's wearing on me. I wish it would go away. But I'm just like, it may never go away. You might be like this for the rest of your life, Seth. You know, let's see, any news stories out here, Zero Hedge and other places? U.S. budget disaster will impoverish Americans. Okay. The U.S. Supreme Court still has 6 blockbuster rulings to issue. Let's read that. What are they? The U.S. Supreme Court is poised to release a number of significant rulings in the coming week, including ones relating to whether President Donald Trump enjoys broad immunity for his activities as president, obstruction charges related to the Capitol breach, social media laws, and the power of federal agencies. Oh, yes. The Chevron decision, that one's a huge one, guys. Let's read on. The High Court tends to release all of its decision for a term by the end of June, and only several days remain in the month. The justices have yet to release 14 cases for the term, which started in October of 2023. The Supreme Court will rule on a 40-year doctrine known as the Chevron Doctrine. The president dictates that courts should defer to executive branch agencies' expertise when it comes to interpreting laws when Congress's intent in passing the law is unclear. Under the 1984 doctrine, the U.S. courts gave great leeway to agencies such as the EPA and the SEC regarding the powers delegated to them by Congress to administer the law. 2 small fishing companies have challenged that precedent, claiming that paying for a monitor on a herring boat required the National Marine Fisheries Services amounted to an onerous regulation. As the case illustrates, the ruling will not affect only the EPA and the SEC, but a myriad of other federal agencies. And based on, let's say here, in oral arguments earlier this year, the justices appeared divided over a bid to further limit the regulatory powers of federal agencies in a dispute involving the government-run program to monitor for overfishing of herring in New England's coast. The lower court rulings allowed the National Marine Fisheries Service to require commercial fishermen to help fund the program. The 2 fishing companies, New Jersey-based Loper Wright Enterprises and Rhode Island-based Relentless Incorporated, have argued that Congress did not authorize the agency, part of the Commerce Department, to establish the program. They say that the justices appeared divided, but my recollection and my reading of it was that they're probably going to strike down the Chevron doctrine. That there are a number, like 3 justices that really strongly want to just bring down the Chevron doctrine, and so you're likely to see a narrow ruling on that, but that they will rule in favor of the fishing companies. Trump immunity case. Another case that will likely be ruled on this week involves former President Trump, who had argued that he should be declared immune for his activity after the 2020 election to deal with what he described as election fraud. Special counsel Jack Smith last year charged the former president with conspiracy to subvert the 2020 election, and the former president has appealed the case to the High Court. During arguments, justices appeared skeptical of the Trump attorney's arguments that he should be fully immune from prosecution, but some of the justices seemed inclined to carve out some immunity for presidents. Several justices offered warnings that all future former presidents could be prosecuted by their successors if immunity is not upheld. The appeal has delayed the criminal case against former President Trump in Washington related to the January 6th Capitol breach. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges. This is the one where it's like, like what is insurrection, and nobody's been charged for insurrection and all of that sort of stuff too. Isn't that related to this case? I can't recall, but I think that the justices will rule that he has some degree of immunity, but not complete immunity. But we'll see. It also kind of seems to me that like Congress would have to prosecute it, not the Department of Justice, but I don't know. Maybe not. Social media contacts. Another major case, the court will have to decide whether federal government officials should be broadly prohibited from communicating with social media companies. Responding to lawsuits by two state attorney generals alleging that the federal government violated people's First Amendment rights by asking social media companies to take down content that it claimed was false or misleading, the attorney generals had some success in the lower courts. The U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals issued a decision that blocked officials in the FBI, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Surgeon General's Office, the White House, and other agencies from contacting social media firms. The Biden administration appealed the Fifth Circuit's decision, sending it to the Supreme Court. The circuit's decision is currently on hold while the High Court weighs the matter. A number of Supreme Court justices during arguments in March appeared skeptical that government officials should be barred from contacting those companies. There's this thing that like, can you not? Yeah, I don't know if they can say, oh, well, you can't talk to them. But I also do think that like, people's freedom of speech is being, harmed, and so I'm interested to see where the ruling. But on this one, however the Supreme Court rules on that one, that's probably not going to be the end of the story. There'll probably be like follow-up cases and stuff that would kind of where we see where things go. Although the Supreme Court already ruled on a challenge to the Food and Drug Administration's approval of an abortion-related drug. Ah, yes. That was last week. The High Court is set to release an order on whether emergency rooms in Idaho can perform abortions on pregnant women during what is described as an emergency. Under the 2022 Idaho Defense of Life Act law, abortion is banned under all circumstances unless it is necessary to prevent the death of the pregnant woman. The Biden administration had challenged the mandate, saying it conflicts with the federal law, the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which mandates that emergency room doctors stabilize patients. Oh, okay, so they're saying we can abort the baby if, we need it to stabilize the woman rather than to the woman's not going to die. Okay. Laws in Texas and Florida that regulate bans on social media will also be decided during the Supreme Court's turn. Those laws bar social media companies from taking down or demoting user content that express certain views, coming in the wake of allegations that social media companies were targeting conservatives for censorship or deplatforming. The justices expressed some reservations on February 26 about the Republican-backed laws in the two states, but suggested that those mandates won't be blocked entirely. The justices expressed concern that the laws could undermine the editorial discretion of the platforms in violation of free speech protections, but they also indicated that they might permit the laws to regulate certain non-expressive internet services, such as the provision of email or direct messaging. Ah, yeah. You know what? That's the one that really irks me. Is like when you wanted to post a link and it was a private message and Facebook would block it. That's not okay. That is not okay at all. That one super bothered me. I did it. I remember when the Hunter Biden thing came out and I tried to send my wife a link and it would block it. Yep. He was thinking about the same thing. You remember when I did that, right? It was because we talked about it on stream when it happened. We were here. I saw it happen. That pissed me off so much. That was, you want to talk about like abuse of power and abuse of the what do we call them? Like of the intelligence agencies in the United States and all of that sort of stuff. That's what that was. They completely abused their power because They wanted Joe Biden to win. Yeah, 100%. And to be frank, you know what? I do kind of think if that story had been allowed to just go on organically and we all admitted the truth, it may well have been enough to prevent Joe Biden from becoming president. It really could have. So that was a big deal. That was a big deal. And I'm not sure, well, I don't know. I feel like that Facebook and Twitter are the town square, and that there is an incentive in the same way that we regulate telephone companies. That I think that the government can have a compelling interest in regulating that. I don't know if a state can do it, though. So I still think that Facebook should be able to have editorial discretion, but I also think that you can make laws about this stuff. So we'll see where they go. You know, the nice thing would be that these companies just do the right thing. But I think kind of what I've learned from all of this is that, like, you'll start out trying to do the right thing and everything, but if your company becomes powerful enough, you will attract people that don't want to do the right thing and want to use the power. It's just inevitable. Okay. January 6th obstruction. The Supreme Court will rule on an obstruction statute that may affect the Department of Justice's prosecution of people who entered the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. One person who was charged, Joseph Fisher, filed a lawsuit that challenged the statute, which makes it a crime if an individual corruptly obstructs, influences, or impedes an official proceeding. In April, a number of the justices were skeptical of how the statute was being applied in Mr. Fisher's case. Attorney General Merrick Garland this month suggested in a congressional hearing that he would be prepared to drop cases for January 6 defendants who were charged under that statute. We respect the Supreme Court, whatever the court rules, will act appropriately. I hope that they strike that one down, because that law is stupid and it wasn't intended to be used that way, and I think that they're abusing the rules. But you're seeing a lot of that in the Biden Justice Department. Lawfare hasn't been helping them, but going back to the debate does kind of make you wonder. I don't think that trying to re-adjudicate the last election would be a good thing for Donald Trump, but you know, trying to adjudicate during the debate all of the nasty lawfare that's going on, it's probably to Trump's benefit. Especially if Biden continues to play this coy thing like, it's not me, guys, but of course, actually, it is me. He's been doing that, sort of like when they ask him questions about it and stuff, he kind of plays like, actually, it is me. I'm not even sure if it strictly is him as much as he wants people to think that it is. I don't know. Reuters contributed to this report. Oh, that was from the Epic Times. Hey, that's like that's the first in a long time that I read something from the Epic Times that I actually thought was worth my time. Uh-oh, what's this? Think we can avoid World War III if Trump wins? I really don't think that anything all that spectacular will happen if Trump wins. I think that if Trump wins, probably there will be some sort of ceasefire agreement in Russia. I think probably. Like, I think that he's going to work to try and end it, and he will put pressure on Zelensky to make a deal. I think that's what Trump wants to do, at least. We'll see if it actually works out that way. It may not work out that way. Zelensky may just be like, no. And Europe continue to help him in the U.S. I mean, technically, the U.S. has a law to give them the money, so I don't know. I heard he said that he'd increase Russian sanctions. Yeah, I think so too. I think he probably would. A lot of, so one of the things you got to keep in mind is that the left, or like the conspiracy theory, like Reddit nut jobs left, is still completely convinced that Donald Trump is actually a Russian agent, and ergo he wants to get elected so that he can, turn everything towards Russia's side. But the reality is that he was pretty strict on Russia when he was president before, and he is likely to continue to increase sanctions and so forth. So I don't see how anything that's set up right now that would lead to World War III. Okay. But if there was a situation going on right now that was likely to lead to a World War III, well, it probably is Ukraine, right? But I was just saying maybe Trump being elected might de-escalate that one. So then the other one would be in Israel, because Israel is kind of running down their Rafah operation now. It kind of sounds to me like that they feel like they've done everything that like major operations can do. It doesn't really sound to me like Hamas is dead. I don't know what the next phase of that is going to be, but part of what I'm seeing going on right now is that Israel is now more concerned about Hezbollah on the north, and that keeps kind of brewing. If that turned into operations in Lebanon, that's when Iran could get involved, and then you could have a world war. So that's one that's going on. Okay, there's a political story I am seeing now that I want to read that is related to all of this. Total panic. CNN anchor abruptly ends interview after Trump spokesperson utters inconvenient facts about debate host Jake Tapper. In case you needed a preview of what to expect during this week's presidential election debate hosted by CNN, we present the following just seconds after the Trump 2024 National Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt began to discuss CNN's historical bias against her candidate, most specifically that of debate moderator Jake Tapper's history of anti-Trump lies. CNN anchor Casey Hunt mammed her and immediately cut her mic and ended the interview. Hunt attempted to defend her position on a post on X. You come on my show, you respect my colleagues, period. I don't care what side of the aisle you stand on, as my track record clearly shows. Okay, so we're not allowed to criticize the debate moderators. That's... Nope. Sorry, CNN. Don't agree. Which, as one might expect, was greeted with even more derision on social media. Yeah, I bet. Cat turd. Everything she said was true, and you showed zero respect for your guest. And please quit pretending to be fair. You're a paid propagandist for the Democrat Party. Is she paid? I don't know, and I don't know what they claimed, but probably they were true. I kind of suspect I know what they're talking about. I remember seeing an older Biden video where he says if there wasn't in Israel, he would have created one. Not really. Well, maybe he would have. But the thing that you got to keep in mind about Joe Biden is that he is not a principled politician, right? He is I'm going to pander and do whatever it is that will help my party and help me gain more power. Remember Donna oh my gosh, that still pisses me off. Yes, giving the debate questions to Hillary Clinton ahead of time. So dirty. So dirty. Probably happens all the time, though. I'm not done with the story here. Casey says, respect my colleagues, but she is okay with her and her colleagues not respecting journalistic principles of neutrality. I'm really surprised that they're going to let Jake Tapper moderate the debate. Like, I'm surprised, even for CNN, that was a surprise to me. When was all of this? Oh, this was all this morning. Like, this was when we just got started. So this was just as the stream was starting. Meanwhile, Just the News reports that Hunt's colleague, who must be respected, Jake Tapper, is at the center of a defamation suit brought by a consulting company which alleges that the network and one of its reporters lied about the company's work. The network's defense is that CNN did not intend to harm, and its language was opinion or ambiguous. Ugh. Really need to do something about defamation laws, right? I feel that media companies in particular should be held to account for what they do, what they say. It shouldn't be like something that would, make the cost of doing business so high that we don't get news anymore, but it should be enough that journalists are super, super careful about what they report. Jake Tapper was a Hooters spokesman? What? I saw on TikTok this morning, guys, I gotta tell you, like, what shows up on your For You page on TikTok? I don't feel like you have any control over what shows up on your TikTok. So this morning, I saw this sob story from a girl that she worked at Hooters and they were shutting down her Hooters location, and she was absolutely devastated, and everybody was feeling bad for her and everything. And I'm like, why is this on my For You page? Like, what? I feel like that the Chinese are intentionally trying to stupefy Americans. That's still a conspiracy. That if there's a conspiracy theory I believe in right now, it's that the Chinese party uses TikTok to try and influence Americans' beliefs and weaken Americans. Okay. As Levitt noted in a post on X, you cut off my microphone for bringing up the debate moderator's history of anti-Trump lies. This proved your point that President Trump will not be treated fairly on Thursday, yet he is still willing to go into this 3-on-1 fight to bring his winning message to the American people, and he will win. While she is likely right on the 3-on-1, we are more interested in the cocktail of drugs that will be required to keep Biden cognate and upright for the 90-minute debate. Yeah. Listen, he's going to be on something. Even if they're just like giving him different supplements and things to keep him alert. And you know what? In this situation, because they didn't want to do a drug test, I would probably put Trump on Adderall because he's totally ADHD. I think I firmly believe I have no evidence to support this. Okay, just to be clear, I have no evidence to support this. I firmly believe that Donald Trump is ADHD. Like, not just like he's ADHD, but like he's been diagnosed, he has prescriptions for ADHD, and he's been on and off his Adderall through his whole presidency. I think so. And I think one of the big arguments that he has with his family is whether or not he's taking his medication. That's been a long time rumor. Oh, I'm sure. So, I go to an ADHD specific doctor. I tell you what, being a doctor for ADHD is probably a pretty good gig, because they have to visit you every 3 months or whatever to keep their medication going, and you don't have to do a whole lot in the follow-up meetings. I think I could probably, that's what I should have done. I should have been an idiot. Anyways, but at that office, there was always this list of, okay, just because you're ADHD doesn't mean that you can't be successful. And here are some known confirmed celebrities that are ADHD, and Donald Trump was on the list. And that was long before he became president. So I'm just saying, I think he's ADHD. And I think his behavior very much looks like ADHD to me, especially when he's talking, when he's giving speeches. He talks like me. He goes off on weird tangents and you know, clarifies little things that like a normal person wouldn't. That's just like me. He's ADHD. Depends on your measure. Famous is successful, apparently, in their eyes. Yeah, this comes back to that I am on the subject of ADHD. I'm probably a relatively unique set of circumstances that would probably be valuable if I were to make content about it, but I don't have any interest in doing so right now. But I'm one of those people that I was diagnosed very, very young, and I've been very successful with it, and I can provide a lot of insights to people that like got diagnosed later in life or trying to navigate medications and stuff, because there's lots of things that I know and I've learned that I don't always see online when the discussions about this are brought up about how to. The one that I see the most is that you know, people think, oh, you just take the medication and then you're done. No. All of the medication does is allow you to focus. Now that you can focus, you need to develop new habits. So you need to have systems and support people in place to help ensure that you develop new good habits once you get on the medication. What medication have you found to be the most effective? Well, so there's not going to be any one medication that's like the most effective overall, because ADHD is caused by a number of different genetic defects. So there are multiple ways. Basically, ADHD is caused by there being a lack of norepinephrine and dopamine in the cleft between brain cells, and that kind of acts as like a gateway to whether a certain impulse gets passed on or not, right? So what happens in ADHD people is the frontal lobe part of your brain says, oh, I remember this situation last time this happened, and so we shouldn't do that this time, right? And they send that message and it doesn't get passed on because there's not enough chemicals in the cleft. So then the frontal lobe has to send it even stronger, and then when it finally gets through, and it's too late. And that's why ADHD people, they'll just act before thinking about it, right? So there's multiple ways in which that can happen. For instance, you can have, you just don't produce enough of it. You can also have, there's like these things that like pull it back out. Otherwise you'd get too much and then you get schizophrenia. So there's like these vacuums that will like pull the chemical back out. And if you have too many of those vacuums, then you also get ADHD, right? So if you have too many of those vacuums, you'll probably do better with norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors like Strattera and some of these other Burton, I don't know. I probably shouldn't talk specific medications, but the antidepressant class of medications. Versus if you don't produce enough, you usually tend to do better with Adderall or Ritalin. Adderall tends to be a little bit more the dopamine side, and Ritalin tends to be a little bit more the norepinephrine side. In the future, it's possible. Like, remember when there was the Theranos thing going on? In fact, I remember talking about this on the stream once before that all came out that was fraud. But when we thought that we were going to get a machine that you could just go to the store and get a DNA test from, right? It's conceivable that you could go and get a DNA test, and then that test would tell you exactly what kind of ADHD medication you should take in the future. So there's not one that's like overall best, but if I was a doctor, then I could prescribe stuff. That's what I was like. You know, like the funny thing is that to become an ADHD doctor, what you do from a day-to-day basis, I would say, is relatively simple. And the most complicated part of the job would be you're prescribing things, and you need to be able to know enough about the chemicals and everything to, you know, factor those things in and whatnot. But you still have to go through, like, you know, the whole, like, internship-ish time period. I forget what they call that, right? It still takes a long time to do it. But like I said, you get a steady stream of clients. Like those guys, they're booked all day. I'm just saying. So probably a pretty good gig. Maybe I should have done that gig. Maybe I would. Nah, I don't know if I would make more. I could start a practice though and have multiple doctors underneath me, and then I would definitely. The thing that I keep coming across in my life as I think about things is like, there's multiple ways in which I could become a millionaire, but the question is like, is there one that's like perfectly suited to me and my circumstances that I should be taking advantage of right now? And I never see it, right? Like if I really wanted to become like a millionaire streamer, should have just streamed Fortnite. I could have streamed Fortnite from the very beginning. Woulda, coulda. There's a million ways to make $1 million. You just have to find one. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of luck to it too, right? I didn't know that Fortnite was going to be a huge game. I didn't enjoy it. In Australia, it costs around $800 to $1,500 for diagnosis. Really? We finally got my son diagnosed for autism, and it took so effing long, guys. And then they diagnosed him with level 2, and I thought it was going to be level 3, but I don't know if that matters right now. They adjust it as time goes on. I would have thought that my wife would be downstairs with the kids now because Ethan was awake when I got out of the shower, but no. And I'll need to remember to ask what's we setting up appointments for stuff now, right? And what is ADA? I need to look that up. Oh, no, wait. They are awake. They are over there, and I just couldn't hear them until I shut up, and then I could hear them. And they are awake. Okay, cool. Oh, it's not 88. What do they call? Okay. I remember when you could hear the parakeets in the background. Oh, yeah. That's so far back. Dude, I look back, just like the way that the room used to be set up. Because I used to be, like, over there, and then there was this back wall, and I didn't like that because there was too much reflection. And I look back like, why did I set it up like that? That was, like, this is a way better setup anyways. And I would have probably put power in different locations and stuff if I had known that it was going to be set up this way. But the bird has been downstairs now for 4 years. And I always, whenever I think about it, I feel bad. And so then I go down there, and that bird is just so happy, man. He no plucking or any of those weird behavioral issues. I can take him out. He's perfectly nice to me. I can even try and socialize him with other people. It's okay. Like, he's just such a good bird. Such a good bird. There was this person on TikTok that they had a sun conure that they had gotten from somebody else, and that was a good bird, and they made such good TikTok content, and she basically blew up because of the bird. And I was like, oh, her bird died. I was like, oh, you should take my bird. But they had already, before that had even come up, she had already gotten one from somebody else. So, oh well. Oh well. Jerry could have been famous, but no. Is that my millionaire idea that's been looking me in the face this whole time? Is Jerry could be famous, could be make me a millionaire, and I haven't been taking advantage of it and need to make more videos with my bird? No, I don't know about that. That girl was so clever with the videos she made with that bird. I would never think of that stuff, man. Now the dog is another opportunity I feel like I've been sleeping on. And I got my wife to do, you know what actually happened was my wife, like, she started posting YouTube shorts with the dog, and like they did amazingly well, and she didn't like it because of the comments or something like that. And I'm like, but like, that's great. That means that you're totally going to blow up if you keep making videos with your dog. Come on. Especially when he was a baby, that was the cutest dog on the planet, I swear. And he is still like top 10. Really is. Like there's all of those super ugly dogs that are so ugly that they're cute, and then there's my dog. Well, and then there's, you know, there's maybe a couple of puppies, but then after that, then there's my dog, because he is adorable. And he plays with the kids. It's hilarious. You know what else I should do? You know what else I could make me a millionaire? And make us, we could all become millionaires, guys. So these Ninja Trader indicators that we make, every Ninja Trader user should have these indicators. And I think we can do better with it. And one of the ways that I think I could do better with it is by increasing the price and turning it into an affiliate program. So what if the cost was $200 for a lifetime license now, but there's an affiliate program, and for every affiliate link that you get $100, right? So the price would still be the same as it is now, $100, if you bring one other person in, right? And if you bring more than one person in, you get $100 a pop. Kind of seems like that would be, you know, a pretty good incentive for people to help me sell my indicators, because I suck at it. But they're good indicators. And that's the other thing, is that it's a good product. It's a good product. And if we had more income coming in, we could put even more time into it and make it even more of an amazing product. You know, I don't have that on my list of things to do this week. Maybe if we get in later, we can get into it. But there was that new study where they were kind of looking at changes in the depth of market and then making those tokens that they passed into a language model, into a large language model. You know, I think that I might be able to do that and set something up like that, and then you could sell that as an indicator. Not even kidding. That would be amazing. That would be something that I would probably have to charge a lot more for, though. That would be like a $500 to $1,000 indicator. I think I was supposed to be talking about something else now, but I don't know. Like I said, 2 ADHD. 2 ADHD to even remember. Oh, dude, I totally... So another thing, this weekend, something we should know, and just Zero Hedge pointing out to me, that this weekend there is a French election, and the Conservatives will likely take over. So that will be interesting. That will be really, really interesting, in fact. Because we've had conservative leaders come to power in Europe, but not in the two major countries of France and Germany. So having a conservative in France will really shake things up, and we'll see where the pieces fall. What are the French electing the president? So France has a parliament system, but they have a president, and the president like actually matters. So like in a lot of places, there is a president, but like they're not elected and nobody cares about them because they don't have any power, and it's all the prime minister. Like in the UK, it's kind of like that. But in France, they actually have a president, and the people elect the president separately. So it'll be a big change in France to have. It really sounds like Marie Le Pen is going to win. So if you have Marie Le Pen as president in France, that's going to be a huge change for Europe. Okay, somebody on Reddit is saying your appearance does matter. They're talking about your body. It reminds me of this story where this woman, she was kidnapped by Hamas, but like apparently Hamas didn't touch her because she had a huge nose, and so she got a nose job afterwards, and that was just like such a weird and sad story. You know what? I'm sorry for even telling you guys that story. It'll probably ruin your whole day thinking about that now. Don't go and look the story. Let's just forget about it. Let's move on. Oh man, the conservatives are really upset about this person. This is I tell you what, this story is really going to shake things up going into this debate. And it's probably going to drum up even more interest in the debate. Even though, again, I think it's going to kind of be a boring debate. I still think it's going to be a boring debate. Oh man, yeah, so here's the Ukrainian conflict sub, and here they're saying 400 licensed medical and mental health professionals have agreed Trump shows clear signs of probable dementia. So that's they're still pushing that one. So you know that it's because of all of the issues with Biden, right? Otherwise, I don't think they'd be pushing that. I kind of think they're both too old, but I don't know. I don't think that Trump is showing dementia. I haven't seen anything that seems like dementia. Chances, oh, okay, numbers. so that's totally a thing. Is like, okay, the Democrat Party, there is a point at which it becomes so clear that Joe Biden is going to lose that you do a last second switch. Okay, because it's like a switch is really harms your party, but maybe that's less harmful than Biden being the nominee. But the big problem that they have in doing that is, who do they replace him with? Because nobody likes Kamala Harris, and so then people are like, oh, let's do Hillary Clinton. Yeah, that would be so much better, right? Like. Yeah, Biden has dementia, verboten. Oh yeah, hey, experts agree that Trump has dementia. Let me tell you something, guys. When you see a news story that says something to the effect of over several hundred or 1,000 professionals that know about a particular thing have signed a letter saying that X thing, okay, that's a political propaganda. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Yep. It doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. It just means that it's political propaganda. You should probably ignore it. And this is a really common tactic that they've been using for a long time. And when Trump came along, like it was like finally everybody figured out that what that actually is. Yeah, well, because the way that you get something like that is somebody has a political agenda, right? You don't just get 200 medical experts. They have a conference every year. Okay, guys, now that we're here at this conference, we need to decide what is the most important issue for us to get together and agree on so that we can put a statement out to the public about this thing. No, that doesn't happen. Okay? What happens is somebody with a political agenda calls up all of their friends and says, hey, you're a Democrat. Would you like to help the Democrats out? If you say that Trump is crazy right now, we'll put you on this list. And then they only contact Democrat people that are going to say what they want, and then they put that out. And then you go, oh, well, the experts say it's true, so it must be true. It's bullshit. Just ignore them. Literally, completely ignore these things. All I know, Seth, is the government steals from all non-government people. We are the piggy banks. Well, so it's funny. We are the piggy banks. I mean, the economy runs on individual people doing things, right? And they do want you to labor and to be productive, and the system is set up to encourage you to do that. But I mean, that's for the benefit of everybody. I want to get in on another rant, but I feel like I want to continue to rant about the expert agree thing. It really is like a piece of misinformation that a lot of less discerning people fall for. And I'd like to see it go away. Okay, now I'm going to go on the other rant. Here's the other rant, okay? Money is created when loans are taken out. So if you go and you take out a loan to buy a house or to buy a car or to start a business or whatever the deal is, when you take out a loan, that is how money is created. That is where all of the money in the economy comes from. Okay? Money is debt. Okay? So when more money is printed, that means there's a lot more money to spend and go in to put into things. So it is very much to your advantage to be at the top of that food chain when it comes to money being created. Okay? People in the financial sector, they make a lot of money. Why? Because they give out the loans. They're the closest to the money. The closer you can get to that creation point, the better off you're going to be. So there is very much this thing of, well, if you're the people that print the money, they're going to be the richest, right? And all of us regular people, we don't have the ability to go and print money and get super rich, right? Wrong. You do have the ability to print money because you can take out a loan too. The only caveat is, with any loan being printed out, you have to pay the loan back in the future. So you have to have something productive to do with that money for the loan. But otherwise, that's it. I think that a lot of people, like taking out a loan and then starting a business is too risky. But that's where wealth comes from, guys. Is taking out loans and doing risky things with those loans and then making more money back than you took out for the loan. And if you really truly want to be like really rich, I don't just mean like Seth rich, like, upper middle class. I mean like truly rich, you have to take out loans and build businesses with them. It still blows me away that this isn't basic knowledge. Take out loans to lend. Well, it's because the whole way that the system works is not what was intended. That's why. Right? The intention was that it's a fractional reserve and the Federal Reserve makes some money and then the banks get the money from the Federal Reserve and then they pass it out to the people and it's supposed to be some sort of equal distribution. No, that's not how it works. The way that it works is when you make a loan, right? The thing that controls the money supply, that's why, like, you would think if the Federal Reserve was the one that made all of the money, then all they would have to do is say, okay, we're only going to print X billion dollars this month, and then you're done. But the reality is that they can't tell you when we change interest rates or when we do this thing, how that's going to change how much money is created, right? Like M2 money supply. That's the big key indicator of money supply. If the government is creating all of the money, then shouldn't we be able to predict several years out how much money is going to be created? Why did they just show you the current M2 money supply? Why don't they show you the 6-month projection based on government? Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because the government doesn't create the money, the banks do. The government controls certain levels and things like lending standards, how much money those banks have to keep in reserve, and the interest rates. And those things all control how many loans the banks give out. Because if the interest rate is higher, for instance, less people are going to be able to afford those loans, and so the less people take out loans, right? And that's how they control the money. That's the way that it works. And so, yes, it's not common knowledge because the conventional wisdom is something completely different. And it's kind of this weird thing where it's like, okay, but it's like seems like it's kind of a small distinction. And I think that to a lot of people in the finance space, they kind of think it's a trivial distinction. But from the perspective of a layperson trying to understand how money works and how that can lead them to more wealth, it's a really important distinction. Because once you realize that it's the banks that make the money, all of a sudden it's like, oh, everybody told me to not have debt, but actually, debt is really the only way to true wealth. It is. The only caveat is you have to be able to pay it back. That means that you have to have an idea, something that you're going to do with that money that has a good probability of making that money back. That's all you got to do. That's super, super hard to do. Okay, but that's all you have to do. Unfortunately, the way that the system goes, those people that already have the wealth are the most capable of doing that. That's kind of the bum deal that we got. But it's not that like it's like the system is holding you back or anything like that. Because as long as you have an idea that you can do that with, you can do it too. It's just like they say, like you go to the fair and you want to win the huge stuffed animal. Well, if you go and you just buy one dart and you throw that one dart and you only get like that one opportunity, then you're probably not going to win the prize, right? But if you can, throw 100 darts, then you probably will get the prize. It's the same sort of a thing. What is to stop the Fed from becoming the lender? So the Fed only lends to individual banks and, deals with transactions between banks. So it is actually, when you really get down into it, it's actually a very clever system. Because can you imagine if okay, so let's think about an alternative world where the system works the way that people think it works, or that the way that people think that it should work, the way that certain people think that it should work. In that world, all banks would be owned by the government and be nationalized under one gigantic Bank of the United States. And then the Bank of the United States would be the one that gives out the loans, right? Well, what would be the problem with that? Well, how would they determine who they give loans to and who not to? They're going to use political considerations and all of these sorts of things. They're going to give their buddies the best loans and all of that. There's going to be all of those problems. And you're going to give that money to people that don't actually have the ability to pay it back. Because that's the problem is if you take out a loan, if you give a loan to somebody and they don't pay it back and they don't create a more successful business with it, then that money was basically wasted. Essentially, that loan was basically wasted, and you don't get any GDP growth out of it. And so you want as many people as possible to be successful with the loans that they take out to grow the economy, right? That's why we give it to the banks. So it goes down because you probably don't. I don't know. I could be wrong, but when you need a car loan, do you go to Citibank and get a car loan? No. Citibank's probably not going to give you a very good rate on a car loan. You probably go to like a local bank. Like around here at Zion's Bank, or we have credit unions. I go and I get a loan from the credit union. They give me a really good interest rate, right? And those guys, they have a much better handle on the local economy and what's going on and what the risks are and what the risk with that specific business is in order to make better decisions about who should get loans and who shouldn't, right? So that's kind of the brilliance of it, is that they give that money creation to smaller players that have much better insight into who is going to be able to be the most productive with those loans. That's why it really is the case, guys. If you can print money, you just have to know what you're going to do with it and have a high probability of being able to pay it back. And if you do have an idea, it's not going to be like, or maybe I'm wrong about this because I haven't been through this process, but from what I understand, it's not like, oh, I have this idea, but nobody will give me the loan. And if you actually have a good idea, you will get the loan because they're pretty good at seeing the risks and knowing all of these sorts of things and stuff, right? I mean, maybe it's something super high risk, then that's different. But so it actually is a pretty smart system. The biggest problem with this system is that people don't understand that that's the system and don't do the things that would like the optimal thing under the system. Like understanding the system, shouldn't everybody be trying to start a business? Well, maybe not, because starting a business is hard, but like the optimal decision in that framework is to have an idea and start business, right? I'm just saying. And a lot of people would do it if not for not knowing that that's basically how money is created, is by taking out loans. Yeah, the Federal Reserve ratio is still 0, by the way. Do you think that they're ever going to change that? You know what I bet you that it is, though, Uzi? I bet you that most of the banks are at the 10%, but that there's probably like one or two, and maybe they're a really big one, that aren't to that 10% ratio, and that's why they don't change it back. Which is a little bit of a concern, isn't it? But hey, if we avoid a recession and we get into another like 10-year period without a market crash like we had in the 2010s, I can dream, can't I? Right? If we did have that, then I'd certainly within that time period, any of those issues would be resolved, and then they would be able to change the reserve ratio back. That's my guess about what's going on there. So that's what I need to do, guys, is I need to go and take out a loan to sell my indicators. Except for that, I don't think I need a loan to do it. I think I can bootstrap it. And then I would be in a position to maybe take out a loan, right? Like if I bootstrap it, I've got a bigger business, right? And then I go in, I take out $2 million to get the time to program a full platform, for instance, right? Could do it. I think this is the most balanced I've ever seen the 10-year. Well, there is a slight downward bias now since we last looked at it, let's say the last hour in the 10-year treasury. But it's really quiet, right? It's not like that, like last Wednesday, for instance. Like, we've definitely had closer days, but it doesn't look to me like there's a whole lot of activity right now. Well, now on a daily basis, that's different for sure, yeah. I had kind of mentioned that earlier, but maybe we should give that a little bit more interest. So, like, when you look at the 10-year in this period right here, essentially, when have we had a time period that was as consolidated as this? Well, this period right here would qualify, wouldn't it? February through March of last year. Because this was kind of when it was like, oh yeah. Well, I think I need to zoom out a little bit further. This was when it was like, okay, this was super ugly because inflation. And then, okay, maybe not inflation. And then we got to wait and see. And then I think that this was like foreign sovereign wealth funds selling, but through most of this time period, the outlook was mostly the same up until about this point when momentum started to become a big thing. So, but I would still say this is becoming a very tight range. And with the way that things are going, it could be a really tight week. Like, we've already got a real range developing, and then you've got a market that looks like they're kind of sitting on their hands until PCE. And I'm not even sure that PCE will do all that much either, to be honest with you. So, like, we'll see what happens. But so last month I got hit. I'm a little mad about it, but I didn't take enough trades, and so when you don't take enough trades, Rhythmic hits you with a larger fee. So, like, it ends up being like $90 for the month for all of the fees. I'm like, ugh. But, like, you know, there's been moves. There's been all this. Those were big moves, right? Well, sorry, come back over to the other screen. You know, there was some big moves, but those were all moves that were like way too fast for me to redo. But I should have been more aggressive. I should have. And now we're coming into this period where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to take a trade all summer. Well, I'm going to have to take some trades somewhere, but good grief. This has turned into a really tight, it's gone from one of the most active, volatile markets I had ever seen back in this area, right, to like all of a sudden one of the quietest markets I've ever seen. Gate Rhythmic, well, they have all got problems, Octavius. They've all got problems. If only we could afford trading technologies. Is there a way to see the intraday short positions? Nope. Well, I mean, I guess you can see open interest. Does open what's the one the POC report? That's once a week, but then there is some like open interest reports on a daily, right? When is Musk coming out with his data feed? Oh, good grief, man. You know, I haven't looked at Tesla in a while. How are they doing? Last time I looked, they were really struggling. I wonder if banks have access to intraday? Well, banks have access to their own order flows, which is really, in many respects, even more valuable, right? Because the bank can identify which client is which and, you know, who's doing what. That's why, I can tell you, man, read the flow reports. These leak all the time on Zero Hedge. Every week you see them. The Goldman traders, they say what the flows that they're seeing, and they can say things like, when we look at our long only funds, they are more or less active than usual. Like, how much are our long only funds trading right now? Are they going long, or are they taking profits and things like they can do that, and they can split it out by different types of players and what those different types of players are doing, which is even more valuable than just like intraday. Well, I haven't seen one for this week, so I don't have one that would be like incredibly relevant. But I'm gonna bet you before the end of the day that Zero Hedge will post one. And by the way, they're posted like you have to be a premium Zero Hedge subscriber to read it. Well, we could find the previous, but we'd probably have to go back several days to find it. Next. Oh, crap. I can only... So, the Zero Hedge is having some problem where, like, there's some JavaScript that crashes. So, I don't know if I can get that. If I can go far enough back. Maybe if I go on this feed, it will work. Premium, latest 2, it's loading. Okay, maybe I can. So what we need to do is we need to go back to like last Thursday or Friday. This might take a while. Well, you'll see the story. It's just that you'll click on it and you can only see like the first few sentences. So here's one from a Goldman trader, but I'm gonna bet that it is doesn't say who it is. Oh, it's Wilson. Well, this one is going to be more about Gamma and so forth, but this one is kind of going to be a little bit more about how, like, what's going on with NVIDIA and the way that different funds are moving and everything, how they're all concentrating and where that might lead with certain options. I'm looking... Oh, man. We're going to have to probably go back to, like, page 10. That's how much news Zero Hedge posts in a day. Let's just put 10 in here. Okay. Well, this one might be worth reading. Nope, it's not one of those flow reports. Okay, in several ways, this has been another week that's reminiscent of the mid-1990s, according to Goldman Sachs head of hedge fund coverage, Tony Pasquariello. So this is not a flow report, but this is the guy that, like, is in charge of all of the trading for the hedge fund side, and ergo has a really good handle on what's going on. He points out that just as his instincts started to argue for a breather, U.S. equities declined the off-ramps and made higher high midweek. It serves as another reminder that drag comes with limiting one's imagination in these types of trading environments. Looking forward, Pasquariello thinks it's going to be a noisy summer, suggesting I'd continue to look for places to simplify your portfolio to the best elements. Okay. He thinks that it's going to be a noisy summer. That's interesting. Because right now it's getting awfully quiet. And I almost guarantee you that they're going to post one today, though. Like, after the stream. Next story that you see that has, like, a premium icon on it, that's going to be the one you want to read, man. Oh, now all of a sudden I'm on Wednesday? I've probably, like, the perfect story has been right in front of my face and I just passed it up, probably. Here we go. This is what we want to read. Okay. Goldman Sachs Managing Director Scott Rubner starts off his latest notes to clients titled Blow Off Top by highlighting that 2024 is the best start to any election year on record. The S&P closed at 31st all-time high this year. NVIDIA has become the 12th largest company to be the largest index weighting in the S&P since 1926. Blah, 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 blah. The flow of funds movement to passive continues to accelerate, which becomes long momentum, large cap. USA defensive quality continues to see daily inflows in 2024. This becomes exacerbated given active concentration rules. See Apple underweight stats. Okay, S&P share repurchases over the last 5 years, cumulative. U.S. corporates are the largest net purchaser of equities every year, and especially in 2024. That's important to know. And here, like, the thing that's really big, you want to know what the biggest thing that they tell you right here? Over the last 5 years, S&P 500 stocks have repurchased $4.8 trillion. They're giving you an exact number. They can calculate how much in corporate buybacks have happened over the last 5 years. The overwhelming daily supply of volatility selling programs exceeds any client demand to buy protection. And then they have like a chart of volatility here. Each day is its own ecosystem, and it has been remarkably challenging to fight this flow of funds trend and track broad-based benchmark indexes. So what he's saying is everybody's just buying the index and selling volatility. Tomorrow, the event is the largest liquidity events this summer. It was. 1 trillion of option notional expires on the 21st of June. We have the largest long gamma positioning in our data set at 10 billion. So Friday was the largest gamma expiration ever, and they tell us how much. We estimate that half of this rolls off after expiry, which is why Nvidia down so much on the day. Look at that, because it was all in Nvidia. Oh man, look at Nvidia this morning. That's an unclenching. That's an unclenching. What about GameStop? Well, GameStop is still moving up, so. Yep, it was this one right here. Summer liquidity is here. S&P top of book has roughly halved since late May, averaging 16 million this week, down from 28 million. Where's his Lucas there? He's the one that was always like, I don't know about the liquidity getting worse during the summer sort of a thing. Yeah, almost half the liquidity in the S&P. Okay, 5.1 trillion worth of heat. June quarterly quad witching and S&P 500 index and ETF rebalancing as one of the last major liquidity events of the summer. Absolute size will trade this day. That is the 21st. That was last Friday, right? End of month quarter end overhang pension fund technical supply is expected. Russell reconstitution. That is the 28th. Oh, when is that? That's is that this Friday? Yep, that's this Friday is the Russell. Let's put that in over. Friday Russell rebalance. It means that we should already know who's getting brought in and taken out and all of that sort of stuff. Wait, did I just close? Oh, here it is right here. Done. New month, new quarter inflows. 9 basis points of new money gets put to work every July on 29 trillion in assets. That is 26 billion in modeled July inflows. So here they're using their data sets that they've had in the past to try and predict how much of inflows are going to get put to work in July. What does that suggest? Does that suggest selling? Well, it suggests to me that any kind of like gamma unclenching that you get in the first half of this week is probably a buy the dip opportunity. Right? As our most recent mutual fundamentals note in May, Apple is by far the largest underweight for long onlys. The average mutual funds owns Apple as 250 basis points underweight, almost 2 times as the next most underweight stock. So that kind of suggests that some funds may have to buy Apple here, but that doesn't necessarily suggest that Apple is a strong long-term investment, though, does it? Apple all of a sudden is turning into a hated stock. Next week is the 4th of July. Oh, I'm so excited. July first half since 1928, July 3rd has the highest day hit rate for the S&P of positive returns, followed by July 1st and other statistically significant trading days during the first 2 weeks of July. So this is using seasonality. Here we go. CTA thresholds are 52.85 for short term, 50.67 for medium term, and 46.85 for long term. We are 200 S&P handles above the short-term threshold. Not a worry for now. So this, a lot of the reports that you get like this will literally spell it out by, here are long onlys, here are risk parity, here are momentum, here are, right? Like they're literally taking the order flow and splitting it out for you and showing you what it's been doing and is likely to do in the future based on seasonality and other predictive information that they have. So that is better. See, we're all, you know, because the thing is as a retail trader, the biggest thing holding you back is your stop, probably. And I'm not saying that you should trade without a stop. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that, like, if I go and I buy the S&P 500 today and I hold it for the next like 3 months, there's a really, really good chance that I'm going to make money, and I'm going to make a ton of money. And based on the size of like a retail trader account, I'm probably going to like double or triple my account size with a move like that you would see over the next 3 months, right? The problem is that the amount that the S&P 500 will go down in that period is probably more than the size of my account too, right? So I don't have enough risk available to be able to hold it through all of that. So you as a retail trader will constantly get stopped out of good positions. You had it right and you'll lose because that's just like the volatility that's involved and so forth, right? So you start to get really hyper focused on where are people's stops. But everything that I've seen, and I wish that we had a study that would show like where stops tend to be and how much, like what percentage of the flow they tend to be and that sort of a thing. But I'm going to guess that it's not a huge factor. I'm going to guess that like the situation where like shorts are covering and that sort of a thing, that it's not really a super strong flow. And I think that the things that you really need to be looking for is large fund has to buy for no apparent reason. And that's what I would pay attention to the most. Stocks, they're going to do buybacks. Look at the buybacks, man. Because that's the biggest flow there is. The biggest flow there is companies buying back their own stocks. And the second biggest flow that there is are index funds. So you might want to know how those two things work. When that money is coming in, how they execute it when it does come in, etc., etc. Okay, anyways, that's my big long rant for today. I think it's time for me to close the stream down and get on to the other work that I have to do today. So, had fun. Good game. No trades today again. You know what? They did come back a little bit, but I don't think that I would have possibly have taken a short on that. But I don't know. It could be. Again, this is one of those things where it's like, right now, it looks like volatility is compressing and that like volume is dying off, but that kind of sets you up a situation where like it can explode real quickly. And this is a week that's kind of fraught with a couple of minefields like that. So we should stay on our toes. We shouldn't completely relax. Monday maybe, but tomorrow I have to pay attention, right? Okay. I will see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent.